What's up? This is not exactly part two of my Dallas Cowboys rant, but I am going to start it off with something I meant to say in that, which was, I guess sometime later on today, you can see I'm going to be watching some football, but I guess sometime later on today, just like the rest of the season, we have to watch the Kansas City Chiefs get lucky again. I know they're good, but everybody else they seem to play seems to be afraid to win. I mean, they could have their hands wrapped around victory against the Chiefs and let it go. Like, no, we're not allowed to win. And it's sad to watch that over and over. As much as I'm a Cowboy fan, because as a kid, I fell in love with the uniforms and the Lone Star on the helmet, like a lot of folks. I got to tell you, whenever I see the Kansas City Chiefs, they make me hungry. Because I look at their uniforms and they look like ketchup and mustard. When the game's over, I feel like I need to go get me a Happy Meal because their uniforms look like McDonald's. Anyway, that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about surpluses versus scarcity in IT. And the reason I want to talk about that is because I noticed how that is balanced in other industries, particularly medicine. And I've thought a lot that once I got into IT and I started working with systems, the servers, the workstations, and then eventually networks, I felt like I was operating kind of like a doctor of the network, of the systems, or at least a mechanic, because there's a lot of troubleshooting that goes into it. But what's different about, or in some cases, I felt like a janitor, especially when you're in operations, you're just break, fix, break, fix, break, fix. Feel like a janitor or a handyman. But nobody really goes to college to become a janitor. No one is taking certification exams to be a janitor. No one is doing continuing professional education credits to be a janitor. And that's how I feel like we get treated. In the medical industry, they limit how many medical schools there are. They limit how many students there can be. So they're controlling indirectly the number of doctors that we can have in this nation. They're not flooding the market like we're doing with IT, especially outsourcing work overseas and importing in immigrants to infiltrate the industry. And then they can lay off people en masse. They don't do that in medicine. They don't lay off a bunch of nurses en masse. They don't do that in law. And in medicine and law, you have to have a license to practice in your state. You can't just go to another state and practice unless that state recognizes your license in the state you're leaving, unless there's some sort of reciprocity. And if there isn't, you've got to go through the process to become licensed in that state. I don't know if that's just filling out an application and paying a fee, or if it involves taking another exam. Either way, we don't have that in IT. There's not that kind of restriction. There's not a limit on how many IT people are graduating per year. There seems to be no limit on the number of people we can have as immigrants. And before you give me all the rules on there's 65,000 or 85,000, do some more research and find out, are they really sticking to that number of H-1B candidates? They're not. They're bastardizing that number 5x, 6x, 10x on an annual basis. It's supposed to be for highly skilled, specialized knowledge. Do we have hundreds of thousands of highly skilled, specialized knowledge folks coming in? I don't think so. Again, show me the resume of the person who's H-1B. Show me that. And I'll show you an American citizen with a similar resume. Show me the job description that they're filling, and I'll show you an American citizen who can also fill that job. Same thing with university. Show me the GPA of a student from overseas, a foreign student, and I'll show you the GPA of somebody who's a citizen that matches that. They can compete. And they shouldn't have to compete with people externally, except in the global market where our companies compete with others. But I don't want to get too sidetracked. I'm talking about scarcity. I'm talking about comparing our industry to those other industries. Even as a CPA, even in accounting, there is a CPA certification and there's a process. And that limits the number of CPAs to some degree. We don't have that in IT. We do have certifications. And I want to talk about that too. This week, I'm going to be taking a class called Transitioning to Splunk Cloud to recertify the 4 Splunk certifications I have. I could have sat for an exam, but that involves hours of studying that I didn't want to do this holiday season because I've done it before. I've given up quite a bit of holiday time in my career to be prepared to take another exam, evenings and weekends. I wonder how people are able to do that with a family, with, spouse, kids, pets. Maybe you're able to focus more when you have that. I do know a friend of mine who seems like his ability to focus has increased now that he is a parent and a spouse. He called me one time in between the games that he had to take his sons to because he's a little league coach, because he had a window of time to do some studying, and he's calling me right before he's about to do it. He said, after I get off the phone with you, I've got maybe about a half hour before I got to take this son over to his game or to his practice. And I'm like, man, it takes me a half hour just to get in the mood. And you've got a half hour window, you're able to actually focus. But once I'm in the zone, I can be there for hours. But I don't like that we have to continue to do that and still have to deal with massive layoffs like we do in our industry. That's not happening to accountants. That's definitely not happening to nurses or doctors, that there's just some mass layoff. It could, because I know the medical industry has changed a lot, but because of their lobby, the AMA, the American Medical Association, is the number 1 lobby in America. Number 2, I believe, is the Israel lobby. But the AMA has been the number 1 lobby in America for decades, at least going back to when I was in college and I saw that for the first time. They protect their industry. They limit. So there's a scarcity. When you go to the doctor's office, you have to wait because there's a scarcity, a manufactured scarcity. But there's no mass layoffs for them. I say it could change because when I was born, most doctors were self-employed. They had their own practice. Today, most doctors, not all, but more than half of them are working for large either pharmaceutical companies, hospital systems, or insurance companies. So they have supervisors and they have to kowtow to what those administrators, especially in hospitals, want. And those administrators don't always have a medical degree themselves. They might have a law degree or accounting or business. They're the bean counters. That's probably another argument that I don't hear when it comes to the whole H-1B situation. They're making the same argument, but they're kind of indirect. The direct thing is we don't have control of the size of our industry because it's artificially being surplused. And when there's a surplus of anything, the value goes down. They artificially create scarcity in the medical industry. The value goes up. To some degree, they artificially create scarcity within the legal industry. Value goes up. You're afraid to use a lawyer for anything. It's multiple hundreds of dollars per hour. And they like to round up. Spend 15 minutes on something, it's an hour. So how do you all feel about that? What has your experience been like trying to maintain your certs while you're still in an industry where you're worried that you're going to be uh, let go or replaced and that you're in the hunt again? See, as I said in one of my earliest videos, I feel we're a better nation when employers have to compete not only for customers, but for talent. And we're a better nation when the employers are more concerned about the talent leaving than the talent is worried about the employer getting rid of them. And we haven't been in that stage in a long time. I think we might have been there this long in my whole career. It's been a buyer's market the whole time. Corporate America is got some problems in that regard, particularly in our industry, and I'm looking forward to some good changes. Not for me, because I'm getting close to the end, or at least I'm getting close to the point where I've caught enough dollars and they're working for me instead of me chasing them all the time. And then I can work for zero and up. I can do volunteer work or work for $1, work for 1,000, work for 100,000 or 1,000,000. It won't matter at that point because I'm still going to eat. That's all I have to say for today. Thanks for tagging along. Consider subscribing or liking this video. Definitely comment. Let me know how you all are handling these situations with IT and how it can be unstable because someone outside of your control is manufacturing a surplus as opposed to keeping things in balance. I'd like to hear from you. See you in the next one.